Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're going to talk about why Palantir is probably going to blow up after earnings. And it's very dangerous to make very short-term predictions on the stock market, as really honestly no one knows what is going to happen. But if you would put a gun to my head and if you would ask me what I think is going to happen after Palantir reports earnings, well, you're going to find out after the end of this video. So as always, if you like this channel and this content, please make sure you check out the new subscribe button on YouTube and you just make sure that it's working and tap it a little bit. And if you want to go even further and support this channel and help a European guy out during the European winter crisis, an energy crisis, then check out that link and you can support the channel for $5 a month and you get access to all the valuations that we do on this channel and you get direct access to me. And yeah, it's just very nice of you. So thank you if you do that. Let's get into the video. So first of all, we need to understand what happened to the stock price of Palantir, because this was once a $44 stock. Many of you who are watching this channel, I know you have bought in at over $20 and many of you are very, very nervous. So if you bought at $20 and you're still holding the stock, you're amazing. You got really diamond hands. Obviously, my average price is $8.65 or something like this. So I have a much easier time. But the reason why I got this price is because I was DCAing down. I also have a $12 purchase, which would be 33% down at the current price. And it was 50% down when we were at $6. So obviously, the first thing that hit the stock is the macro. Everything is going down. There is no company currently that is safe on the market. And the good news in the bad news is that none of these factors are bad for Palantir and some are quite good for Palantir. So for example, Palantir is an inflation-proof stock. They have no debt on the balance sheet. They have $2.5 billion in cash. They have very high gross margin. They are absolutely not dependent on oil prices, energy prices. They are very safe for inflation. The war in Russia is making the stock market go down and has made the stock market go down. And as Palantir is a defense contractor, it's actually making it get a lot of new business and it gives them a lot of publicity online and a lot of proof of concept. And it's basically leading to a lot more business. And all the supply chain issues actually highlight the need for Palantir's Foundry product. So this is the first very interesting thing with the stock, that a lot of things that have made the overall stock market and Palantir go down are actually plus points and good things for Palantir. So here comes the Palantir specific points that made Palantir go down. One of them was that the government growth was slowing down. And I believe last quarter it was something like 14%. And this is unacceptable for a growth company. Then the next one was that because government was slowing so much down, it was dragging the whole company down, and Palantir has a slowing growth trajectory, and it is very worrisome for the people who have invested in Palantir being a growth stock. So now obviously the long-term diamond hand investors like me, we were thinking that this is a temporary thing and the growth is going to go back down. And even if it stays at this level, the amount of profitability and cash flow that this company is going to create is going to more than make up for this. Then there was this point that they are very bad at communicating with the customers. Alex Karp seems sometimes arrogant, and it's very hard to explain to people what Palantir is, what the products do. And this was not vibing well with Wall Street. These were the Palantir specific points that made the stock price go down. I even forgot to mention the very extensive stock-based compensation to employees. And this is brought up as a point, but it seems to be something that is quite normal in that industry. If you look at Snowflake, for example, they have a very similar stock-based compensation structure as Palantir. So it's not like every company in their industry is doing X stock-based compensation and they're doing 4X stock-based compensation. So I didn't really mention this as a point. However, they have been communicating that the stock-based compensation is going to moderate and we seeing this materialize in their reports. So now, very interesting. Let's look at what the stock price of Palantir has been doing, because we have heard from so many people that it was the growth stocks that led us into this stock recession. And as you know, the major markets started falling since November. If you look at the S&P 500, Dow, NASDAQ, the peak was November 2021. But if you look at Cathie Wood, the growth stocks, you will see that many of them have started falling since February 2001. So that makes almost 2 years now for a bear market for these growth stocks. And many have been speculating that these were the first ones to lead us into the recession, and they are going to be the ones that will lead us out of the recession, meaning what you will see is these stocks will bottom first, and while the market is still falling and the big giants, the safe stocks start to fall. And this is exactly what we're seeing. Meta, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, these were the all-time safe stocks. And these start to act like penny stocks, and they really start floundering and falling. And I want to show you what Palantir has been doing, because it's exactly what the prophecy said. So if you look, Palantir has had its bottom in May. And it has been in a sideways trend since then, making higher bottoms. And this is a very short uptrend. This was an uptrend that was broken, but this support held it. But the point is, no more new lows since May. While if you look at the S&P 500, the same date of May 12, this is the Palantir bottom. We are lower, and all the bottoms are lower, meaning that this is still in a downtrend. You can see a lower bottom, lower bottom. You look at the NASDAQ, it's way lower than it was in May 12, and also lower bottoms, and possibly it's heading for a new bottom after this Fed thing. And maybe Palantir doesn't look like a lot, but keep in mind, this was at $6.58, and now we're over $8. That is almost a 25% increase, while the NASDAQ and S&P 500 are down almost since May 12, 20% on the NASDAQ from this point. So that is a 40% divergence that you see in the price. So this is very promising. And also what's very promising is what has been happening in the last few months. So in September, Palantir has been getting super many contracts. Like, they really blew it out of the water. They got $700 million worth of contracts just in September. So if you would annualize that, that would be an $8 billion run rate. But obviously you can't do that because it takes that many months of work to get in a lot of contracts. But these were a lot of government contracts. And we know that there is a lot of companies that don't disclose that they're working with Palantir. It's obviously easier for governments to disclose. So there might be a lot more that we don't know about. Then Alex Karp started doing some interviews where he appeared very normal, very down to earth. I don't know if he got coaching or things are going better in the company and he's more relaxed. But in these interviews, he confirmed that the US business is doing amazing. He gave very good answers to reporters on where the company is heading. And basically, in my mind, this completely handled this Palantir not knowing what they're doing, not knowing how to communicate, and being arrogant. And we see a definite change in this. Then, on top of this, they organized a Foundry Convention where they somehow, out of the blue, I don't know if it's a humble pie or that they are looking at how they can make the company better, they found a way to explain what Foundry does and what their products do by having customers come up on stage and tell their stories of, what happened to them and how Foundry helped their business. And some of the stories are insane. There was a government general that was talking about that her unit was spending, I believe, $800 million on developing a software that nobody was using. And then they brought in her, she started using Palantir, and then they spent something like $6 million and they got a program that everybody was using. And then COVID came, and then they needed to redo the program and make applications for themselves. And this lady was able to create an application for the army in like a matter of weeks that was helping their COVID response. It was utterly insane how efficient that was. There was another company, Tyson Foods, and apparently they saved $200 million using Foundry, which is also insane. So this was really an amazing way to present the efficiency and communicate what the product does for the customers. And I realized myself, the reason why it's so hard to explain Foundry is because it's not a productivity tool like Zoom that everybody can use the same way. It's a tool that becomes the backbone of your company, and it's really different for every company, and it emphasizes the strategy that your company does, and it really makes your company different and more efficient in the market. So what Palantir is different for every company. So the best way is, and this is how they have been selling Palantir, is, find a problem that you want to solve, go to Palantir and Foundry and see if they can handle this problem, and probably they can, and then you will be a very happy customer. So this is how we're going into the earnings call. We know that they are getting a lot of contracts. They have changed their tone. They're explaining Foundry and communicating better to the customers. This is what the bulls have wanted to see. This is what the bears really had problems with. And this is my very humble. I know that I can be completely wrong, and I really want you to know this is not investment advice, and honestly, anything can happen in this earnings call. The bears can find a nose hair that doesn't stand right in Alex Karp's nose, and the stock price can be down 30% after the earnings call. But again, if you would put a gun to my head, this is what I think would happen to the stock price, or what they're going to report. So I think that the government growth is back on track. I actually think that we might have a hidden surprise of some things that they couldn't count as income because they were doing for Ukraine without the contract. This is a total tinfoil conspiracy that I think has happened because their margins were dropping very unexplainably. And they were dropping hints that they are using their balance sheet to grab opportunities and start delivering on things, and they're not going to wait for contracts to be signed. So I think that the government growth is going to be back on track. However, the international business is still going to be slow. Here we might get some pleasant surprise from European governments. But I believe that the international business is going to be slow. We have heard this in Alex Karp interviews. The US growth is probably going to be exceptional. Last quarter, it was 120% year over year growth. I want you to know, even if it's 100%, it's still exceptional. But the way they have been talking is maybe we will get 140% or 125%, an acceleration of growth. But even if we get 100% or 80%, it's still exceptional. I'm expecting that the specs that they have invested into, they are still losing money, but because they stopped this investment, this doesn't matter anymore for the company. I'm expecting the SBC, the stock-based compensation, to continue to moderate and go down to normal levels as this has been promised. And I believe they're going to give a fantastic guidance for the future, and they're going to be back growing 30% year over year. In some other videos, I did some math that even if the government completely slows down and never comes back, their business, the commercial business, is growing so fast that in a few years, they would anyways take over such a part of the company that the government wouldn't matter. But I think my suspicion is that you're going to have a re-acceleration in the government, and on top of that, you're going to have an acceleration of the US commercial for sure, and maybe even international commercial. And again, if you would put a gun to my head and ask me what I really think, I think there's a chance that the stock will pop 10-20% after this report. We have to wait and see. It's on Monday. It's just in a few days. So crossing my fingers, and I really want to know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with my thesis here? And what are your expectations? And are you holding the stock or are you selling? So thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you check out that the subscribe button is working. It's a whole new design. Maybe it works differently this time, so just give it a gentle tap. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.